Welcome to the channel, everybody. I just wanted to throw out a quick video here to talk about a topic that just kind of came to mind today. And, it's something that, well, I say it's on my mind today, but it's something that I discuss a lot with some of my students and my daughter who plays sports. And it's the sacrifices that athletes have to make in order to do the things that they want to do, things that they got to give up in order to do the things they want to do. So, for example, um, this we're talking about things that you put your body through. NFL players, they're well aware of the statistics when it comes to the CTE, right? That the odds of a concussion that could be damaging to your future is more likely the longer you play, right? And at some point, a lot of kids are just getting concussions that it should not be happening, right? And it's something that parents and the athletes sacrifice along the way. Remember, the longer you play, the more likely you are to get injured in any way. You just think about it, like the odds of being in a car accident, right? I mean, the odds of being in a car accident, whatever the statistic is, every time you drive, that statistic goes up, right? The longer you drive, the farther you drive, the more often you drive, that statistic goes up. But if you backtrack a little bit and like reel it in a little bit, right? So let's talk about, just regular sacrifices that people have to make in sports. Talking about, what about the idea of you giving up something so that you can get better at sports? It's kind of the idea that there's plenty of smart and intelligent athletes out there, but what's the stereotype of athletes? The stereotype of athletes is that they don't work hard in the classroom, they're not very bright, all those kinds of things. But it's not necessarily true. It's just a path they chose, right? You can be a very intelligent person, but if you never read up on history or if you never read up on quantum physics, you're not going to know about it, right? So if you channel your energy to one thing, towards your goal, you're going to sacrifice learning and knowing about other things, right? So that's what we're getting at here in this video. I don't want to go too far into it because there's so much that goes along with it. For example, the odds of making it to college and playing sports, becoming a college athlete, it's not very likely. My own daughter is having to give up something to play sports. While she's a fairly good athlete, she's not a Division I type athlete. She's a very smart kid, right? She's in the top 10 in her class and got a very high SAT score. And she could go to a high level college for academics, but wants to play tennis. And those colleges are not looking at her for tennis, right? So she's going to have to sacrifice the type of school that she's going to go to in order to play the sport. Now, having said that, she's also recently broken her hand playing softball. Coach accidentally put that pitching machine a little bit too close inside and broke her hand. So there's sacrifices, and mind you, my daughter is a great kid and she means well and all that kind of stuff. I'm not saying she's like the most athletic person in the world or anything like that, but she's very smart at what she does, and she does a lot of things. The more things you do, the more likely you are to get injured. And that's just how it is. In middle school, she played every single sport they had. In high school, she was in 4 extracurricular activities. So she was very involved. And the more you're involved, it's something you're gonna sacrifice something, right? And that goes for all athletes. And one of the best quotes was my track coach, my strength and conditioning coach in college, who once told me, because I was sincerely asking the question about how do we set up drills for triple jump so that it's not a big, I want to say burden, but like it's not so stressful on the knees as much. And he's like, let me ask you something. Do triple jumpers do it for their health? I was like, well, no. Like, there you go. Right? Athletes are willing to give up something, even if it's health, for the chance to improve upon whatever sport they want to play. And that's something that we have to really look into when we talk about younger athletes. Because like I've mentioned in a previous video, 70% of athletes, of youth athletes, are dropping out by the age of 13. Oh, these pop-ups keep coming up. I'm sorry, guys. I need to get rid of that. Right? 70% of athletes drop out by the age of 13. Now, I will admit that there's some things that go along with that. For example, the idea that, at 13, 14 years old, they're going off to high school, right? They went from a smaller middle school to a big high school, and there's less spots for them to play, so they probably got cut. Where you can have like four middle schools that carry, an A and a B team for the basketball team. So you can hold like 30 players for each school. So you can have 120 basketball players for the middle schools. Whereas there's only freshman, JV, and varsity at the high school, and maybe you carry 45 at most, right? So you're gonna have to cut. So a lot of times I'm gonna admit that that's where a lot of the cuts are coming from. But kids are finding other things that they want to do, or maybe they figured out that they're done with sports. And one of the things is that maybe it's the sacrifice they realize. It's the time. Coaches, we know that we're working 70 to 100 hours a week. If you're a teacher and a coach, you're doing for your 40 hours of teaching and then you're coaching after school, you're doing 70 to 100 hours a week of work. And then you don't realize that the kids are there at the same time. The kids show up for morning practice, maybe, then they go to school, and then they're for after school practice. The kids are doing the 70 to 100 hours a week themselves, right? And you have to really think about that. Now, are they really doing that? According to certain rules, you're not supposed to be doing that, but that's what they're doing. Kids are still working hard, and they're putting overtime and sacrificing their youth for these sports, where there's not a very high likelihood of playing college sports, right? So the loss of time, right? The loss of physical well-being. Kids are going to get injured the more they play. It's going to happen. Every athlete has gotten injured at one point or another, right? And I say every. Of course, there's going to be those one or two that probably never got hurt, and those are the lucky ones. And honestly, the ones that make it to the pros are extremely lucky, because there's going to be great athletes that should have been there but got injured, that should have been there but went through something that was unlucky and didn't make it, right? You have to be a little bit lucky to get to the pro level, along with, a good work ethic and, of course, talent. When you're working that hard and putting all those hours in, you're giving up, you're sacrificing your social life. Financial sacrifices, it depends on how you look at that. But yeah, I mean, parents are. I had a former athlete whose parent was paying $1,500 a month for his select baseball team. So that he can get a scholarship. I want you to think about that, guys. A parent was paying $1,500 a month so that his son would have the chance to play college baseball one day. Mind you, the kid was in middle school. If you really think about a few years of investing $1,500 a month in the stock market, in crypto, in something, that money's going to pay for whatever school he wants to go to, as long as he gets in, right? And that's one of the things that people don't realize. They want the status of getting in there, and that's kind of the tough. Here's the crazy thing. So I teach a college class that when we talk about, the work ethic and character traits and all these kind of things that we should be teaching our athletes, and we're too busy talking about, winning and getting scholarships and things like that, stuff that's not in our control, right? And getting a scholarship is not in your control. you have to beat out other athletes. You're not in control of other athletes. And you can say, well, I can outwork them. Maybe you can, but you can't out genetic them. And there's going to be kids that you just know are going to make it someday and that kind of stuff. But if we were to go and coach all the kids to all of their optimum levels, the cream of the crop would still rise to the top. You know what I mean? Like the same kids would probably still make it. There might be a change here and there, right? Where a kid didn't realize he was as good as he was, right? Or maybe it opened his eyes to something else and he became a very good basketball or track star instead of playing football or things like that, right? So that's something that we have to think about in terms of where we're leading our kids and the goals that we're setting for them, right? They're sacrificing a lot for something that's not likely. Now, are we going to tell them to give up on their dreams? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. But we are going to tell them that failure is a part of everything, right? So how do they deal with failure, right? If you're going to sacrifice, you're going to give up all these things. What happens? What do you do as a coach whenever they don't make it? What are you going to do if they did all they could and they didn't make it? What are you going to do if they did all they could? They worked hard, they put in the hours, they sacrificed everything, and then senior year, they get an injury where they can't go on. Are they less valuable to you then? Right? I want you to discuss that in the chat below. Please like and subscribe, guys, and I'm going to try to keep putting out these videos for you and get some involvement, and hopefully see from you soon.